And just to hear
Let
that,
me
here, go ahead, Shay.
and let me just say this because I have children, but let me just tell y'all I needed to give a class because that is a strategy I learned very early on. I call it, this is inappropriate, jiggling their balls, right? I call it that all the time. And so what my strategy used to be was, hey, the best dad on earth, daycare, because I know that men like to see where their kid where their money is going. Why don't you handle this $200 a week daycare? Go ahead, bro. You don't even have to call me. You just call them and you make that payment. When I have practice, she wants to be a cheerleader. I'm gonna give you the number. Go ahead and call. She wants to swim. Go ahead and call. That's how I get stuff done. I know they don't want to give me the money. That's fine. Give it to the institution. I'm okay with that. You can know where your money is going.
I saw
And it
somebody
works
on
very well.
I saw somebody on IG, some guy that was talking about that very thing that men always complain about, not knowing where the money go. Oh, they should get a card. And so that way, whenever they swipe, they see where the money going. He said they already have that. He said, just give them your debit card. And then they can see.
Imagine you giving a woman your debit card. You can see all the transactions.
Exactly.
Right again. Fuck. That would be nice.
Yeah, that's
I'm
not
just
happening.
thinking.
That's
Just one
absolutely
point I
not
want to touch
happening.
on. One point I want to touch on real fast. HD, bro. We not trying to punch 3-year-old kids.
HD. Yeah, I was a little concerned when you were talking.
that was wild. I'm like, no, those first 3 years are meant for the nurturing, and since we can't actually produce milk, like in let's just say society
Use
collapse, like it has to.
You
You
can
need
produce.
the female. She is a requirement, and I would argue that a lot of it probably stems back to something like that. Like I love what happened in the movie Boys in the Hood, and I recognize it's just a movie, right? But she kept Trey all the way up until he was what, 10, 11. Then the father took over,
Mm-mm.
and I don't necessarily disagree with that. That's I think a reasonable solution. And if you
AP,
do something
that's
like that, I
literally
would
my
argue
point.
that both sides need to pay child support.
I
That's my
disagree.
point.
Let me tell you the strategy that really will work for me. People, even men, have bonds with babies, right? If you bring a man in a child's life as a baby, I don't care if it's a stepdad or whatever, they grow a bond to that child. When you take that parent out of that kid's life when they're a baby, that bond is gone. It is so important for that man to be bonded to that baby. Look, I don't live far from, before Dewan moved out of town, he had Jamal as much as I had Jamal. We'd be like, okay, because we were both right around the corner from each other. The distance wasn't far. He got him as a baby. He did everything. And that bond is there, right? He could do it. That's a smart dude. Yeah, it's hard for a man. It's not as natural, but guess what? He did it, right? I knew he wasn't going to hurt his kid. I knew he wasn't going to do anything. And yeah, I hurt as a mom because as a parent, you're like, you don't want to be far from your kid. And I wasn't. I was around the corner. Matter of fact, I used to do drive-bys. That's just helped me be a little bit better. Not because of women, just to make sure my kid is safe. And I have a policy. When my kid is somewhere, I call you twice a day. One in the morning to make sure my kid is safely waking up, and that night my kid going to bed. If you can deal with me twice a day on the phone call, we're good to go, right? That's my only thing. But you cannot take that bonding experience from men, especially when that kid is a baby. I don't care how hard it is for him, because men do grow an attachment to babies. That little girl is going to always be his little girl. On graduation day, he's going to look back at that baby from when she was in all the hard work he put to nurture her and to make it happen. He's going to appreciate that, even if it was hard as hell. He appreciates that, right? So you can't do that. Women go wrong when they take the kid away from the dad. They really do, in my opinion. Unless he's a dad and you just don't, it's a wild card and you don't trust him like that. That's the only way. But if you trust him and you know he's not going to do anything, let that man have his kid, even if it's not overnight. a great part of the day. He has to bond with that child. He has to.
One thing I want to add, AP and HD, is like we as men need to kind of like, I don't want to say scare straight. I don't want it to just be that, but we need to kind of try to influence these men, whether they're our children or not, to date with intention, to be sexually responsible. I get it at the younger ages, it's going to be hard, easier said than done. But I'm just saying, like for me, I'll just say it's just a little bit of story time. Growing up when I was a teenager, my dad told me, I'm going to try to paraphrase, but he was like, don't have a kid too early in your life. It'll ruin your life. He didn't tell me about child support. He didn't tell me about that court. He didn't tell me the story that AP just told us. He didn't tell me about going to jail if you don't pay your child support. I took that message and I realized I will not have control of my life. I will lose control of my life the way I know it to be if I have a kid before I get to start my life, my career, and all that kind of stuff. And that's, I think, and within our culture, specifically Black men, it's not said enough. The culture is promoting sexual irresponsibility. It's not promoting, hey, you know what? You are 18, 24. You don't have your life together. Why the hell are you having unprotected sex? Why? Just to get the feeling of it? Why are you finishing in a woman? Why are you doing that? Just to get the feeling of it? That 5, 30, 40 minute hour of pleasure, you're going to trade all that for 40 years? That the math ain't mathing for me. And I just can't see, I cannot not see that. But so a lot of people can look past that and just say, it feels great in the moment. And I'll finesse it on the back end. Oh, no, you're not. Oh, no, you're not. So I think we need to like kind of like corral these young men and just try to change the narrative. Stop this sow your wild oats culture. Stop this sexual irresponsibility culture. We need to kind of like tell these men what the outcomes are going to be. The problem I'm seeing from this conversation is a lot of us are starting this process of family creation through the courts, not through a marriage where it should have been, or through a monogamous relationship where these people are having this kid with intention. There are cases like maybe your friend that, don't apply to that, but the majority of them, there were no intentions of marriage. This was just pleasure, as HDTV was talking about, and now we're going through the courts that are meant to screw you over in the first place.
No, and it's funny because I don't necessarily disagree with you. I really don't, because I'm a proponent of hold on to your seed until she has your last name. That is what I preach. That's what I stand on, and I, for the most part, hold men wholly responsible for most of the chaos that's happening. Now, what I won't do is remove the culpability of women in this conversation, because what Shan had with her ex or her kid's dad is a beautiful thing. That was beautiful. That's beautiful. But most relationships don't break up like that. Most relationships typically end ugly, especially if a child is involved and somebody is looking for revenge, whether it's the dad or the mom. Somebody's looking for their get back, whatever that looks like. And if a mom has the kid, my get back is I'm gonna strike you where it hurts, because they know, most of those women know that baby is his heart. Well, Shan was already talking about the bond. If I can strip that from you, I'm gonna make you feel what I feel, and vice versa. Or if hey, you know what? You take care of that little mother by yourself, and I'm out. And again, I just think that I'm not going to remove the culpability from women on the other side, but I think men ultimately bear the responsibility of taking care of the kid. Furthermore, where their seed goes, we have 100% control on that. I don't care what nobody, like, I won't argue with a soul. You get to pick where you put your seed. Now, you might want find Monique over there and she don't want you, and you have to settle for regular Pam, but you still get to choose if you're gonna drop your seed in there. That's your choice. As a man, that is your choice.
And
Your choice. And when it's gone, when you plant your seed in somebody else's garden, Whatever grows is whatever happens is like that was your fault. At the end of the day, that was your fault. But now we're past that, right? This is the conversation that we're having right now. Is we're past the seed that has already been planted. How do we find a way to fix it? I mean, shotguns back in the day worked just fine, in my opinion, but that's a different conversation. I digress.